We're going to be drawing with a grid. We're going to draw our eye, and we're using the grid as our tool to draw more accurately. Using a grid really helps artists to identify how one area connects to another. As you grow as an artist, you will eventually pick up this skill better, but when you're first learning, it is really nice to be able to use a grid. If you're ever going to draw anything really big on a wall, it is a perfect way to enlarge your image, even if you're going from a small image to a large piece of paper. All you have to do is divide up your paper into the same amount of squares and make it equivalent to the squares that you draw over your picture. For example, my paper is 8.5 by 11. The image is an 8 by 10 image. I went ahead and divided my picture up into 1-inch squares, so I would have 8 along one side and 10 along the other. Because my paper is larger, I need to make sure I have the same amount of squares as on my paper. But if I do 1-inch squares, I'm going to have way more squares than I have on my actual image. My paper is 12 by 15, so I divided the 12 by 8 and I divide the 15 by 10, and I get 1.5-inch squares. So I've made templates for the classroom, but you can go ahead and measure 1.5 inches all along all 4 sides of your paper. You must mark all 4 sides of your paper so that you can easily lay your ruler down and line it up with each end of the paper to ensure that you have a straight line. Now, when drawing your grid lines, you do want to be sure that you are drawing very, very light lines. You don't want your lines to be there in your final image. You want to be able to erase them. This is sped up. Take your time to make sure your lines are correct. If your lines are crooked, your image won't turn out correctly. Now that you have your grid finished, go ahead and mark your paper. I usually like to number one side and then use alphabet on the other side. Make sure when you label your image, it is the same way as you label your paper. Make yourself a viewfinder by finding a scrap piece of paper and creating a square the same size as the squares on your image. For mine, it's 1 inch. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw a 1-inch square and then cut the square out. This square will help me be able to focus on one part of my picture at a time so that I don't get overwhelmed by the whole thing. I also like to mark the middle of my square on all 4 sides and then also the quarter marks. This way I can easily see where it's located in the box. I'll begin drawing your eye from box to box. I like to go one box at a time. That way you don't get too hung up on the idea of what you're drawing and you're just focused on what you're seeing and not what you think you see. A lot of people will think, oh, I'm drawing an eye, and that will usually trip them up because they're going to automatically want to draw what they think an eye looks like, when actually you're just drawing an image and you need to think about it as one line at a time. Each line in each box needs to line up to the other one. Check and see where your line is in the box. Is it located towards the lower part of the box, the left-hand corner, the right-hand corner, the middle of the box? As the video plays, it will be sped up. This is not something you can rush. You need to take your time, draw one box at a time. It's not something you're going to finish in just a few minutes. After you have completely drawn your eye, erase the grid lines. You don't want those to show through. Once you have Prismacolor over them, you won't be able to erase them. Now it's time to add the color. The first thing you want to do is add a light base coat. You do not want to push too hard with your pencil yet. You want to build up your colors so you can get an accurate skin tone and eye color. You start with one layer and then you add another color. So for example, in my skin tone, I added some oranges and browns, yellows, and even some blue. I'm going to layer my colors on top of each other lightly, and then as I build up the color, I will start adding more pressure, which will develop a nice rich coat of Prismacolor. But that will be in the next video. In this video, I'm just going to finish laying out my base color. Really consider adding other colors when you are mixing your colors to create your skin tone. You will need more than just one color out of one pencil. There are so many colors. Black is not the only color to make a shadow with. Use the complementary color. Layer your colors. That's how you get depth.
Thank you.